and welcome to Askimo TV. We're talking today to Dr. Heather Currie. Dr. Currie is a gynecologist from Scotland specializing in menopause. She's the founder and MD of Menopause Matters Limited, the Honorary Secretary of the British Menopause Society, and co-editor of Menopause International, the Journal of the British Menopause Society. Hi, Dr. Currie, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Dr. Currie, today we're going to be talking about some menopause basics. We'll go into menopause again in some other interviews. But let's begin with what is menopause and what happens during menopause?
Okay, so the word menopause actually means the last period. So this is one point in the whole transition from women's reproductive years, so times when they have normal ovarian function, through to the stage when the ovaries are doing very little. And the whole reason for that is to have the ovaries working normally, releasing an egg each month, producing the hormones which then stimulate the womb lining so that it becomes thickened during each monthly cycle and then shed, which is the period, relies on the ovaries having enough egg cells to continue this monthly cycle. Sadly, we don't make new egg cells, so as our egg cells become older and decline in quality and quantity, the function of the ovaries gradually changes. So often the first sign that things are changing would be a change in the period pattern. So one of the hormones produced by the ovaries when they're going through this normal cycle is progesterone, and this regulates the lining of the womb and regulates the period. So often with poorer quality eggs and less eggs, the progesterone level changes first and period patterns change. Then, as gradually the ovaries decline further, we produce less estrogen, and this causes the symptoms that are well known associated with the menopause, such as hot flushes, sweats at night, sleep disturbance, and mood changes, etc. So gradually, as both the levels of these hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are lower and lower, the lining of the womb then remains thin, and when it's not stimulated anymore, the periods can't happen, and hence periods stop. So the final period actually means the menopause, but really what we're talking about is the change and then the decrease in ovarian function, which is a whole phasing process, starting often from early 40s right through into the 50s, and the time after the menopause is then this time of being low in estrogen.
What is early or premature menopause?
Okay, so the average age in the menopause is in the early 50s in the Western world, usually about between 51 and 52. If menopause occurs before the age of 45, that's classed as an early menopause, but if it occurs under the age of 40, then that's classed as a premature menopause. And these women who do experience early menopause are a particularly important group. All women, of course, are important. But in this age group, if we lose estrogen at a younger age than normal, that not only can that cause the menopausal symptoms that we're aware of that can happen at any age when the menopause takes place, but there are also implications on later health effects. Because these hormones that we produce, particularly estrogen, are actually really important for many parts of the body. And so if we lose that early, then there are other consequences of that.
What are some of the best treatments or things we can do to make going through menopause easier for women?
Okay, well, I think the first thing is for women to have access to as much information as possible. Women often are quite scared and confused when effects of the menopause do take place. They often don't know what's happening to the bodies, what to expect. So it's always good to be prepared. So the first thing is to have access to accurate and up-to-date information. As for then what can we do, I see the menopause as a fantastic time for women to take stock, to look at their lives, to look at the diet, to look at the lifestyle, because often simple changes, and this really should take place, and we should all be aware of this before we think about buying treatments or having treatments prescribed. So simple changes such as losing weight if we're overweight, increasing exercise, taking a healthy diet, cutting down on alcohol, caffeine, and if possible stopping smoking. To achieve all these, I understand, is quite unrealistic, but to take one step at a time. And these simple changes can not only reduce our early menopausal symptoms such as the flushes, sweats, difficulty sleeping, but also can improve our later health. And when we talk about menopause, although the focus often is on period stopping and often is on flushes and sweats, the big message to get across is when our ovaries stop working, we're low on estrogen for the rest of our lives. And that can have hidden consequences, particularly with heart health and bone health. So when we're making these early changes to try and reduce symptoms, we can also do a lot of good things to improve our later health.
And just a final question. Menopause is going to affect women on both a physical and emotional level. So what's the best advice that you can share on helping women with the emotional side of going through these changes?
Yeah, and the emotional side is very common, and there's lots of aspects of that. So mood changes are really common. Sometimes the difficulty sleeping can have an effect on how emotional we are and how we cope with the following day. And let's face it, women these days are doing incredible amounts of work and looking after home and looking after children, etc. So we do have very high expectations of ourselves. And if we've not had a good sleep, if we're not feeling too good, then that can have a huge impact on our daily lives. So again, getting information is really important and support from others. So what women often tell me is that they expect the flushes and sweats, but what they don't expect are the emotional changes. And that is the most difficult thing that they often find to cope with, and can significantly affect their quality of life and their daily functioning. On our Menopause Matters website, we have an online support group, and I'm well aware of the huge impact that can have in just women supporting each other and helping them through these times. Moving on from these support things, getting information, the diet and lifestyle changes, there are specific treatments that can have a big effect on improving menopausal symptoms. And the most talked about treatment is hormone replacement therapy. The idea of that is to actually give back the estrogen. So if the consequences of the menopause are due to low estrogen, it kind of makes sense that giving back estrogen should be helpful. It's not necessary for all women, but many women can benefit from it, and there are different types or different routes, and it's really worthwhile getting the most accurate information about the potential benefits and the risks of HRT. There's been a lot of bad publicity about HRT over the recent years, particularly the last 10 years, but we've pretty much now come a full circle. We have a much better understanding of what are the benefits, what are the risks, and for most women, there will be more benefits than risks. Having said that, a lot of women prefer to look at the alternative routes, and there are some preparations that can be purchased that try and replace estrogen in a very natural kind of way, and some women can also find these helpful. So there's a lot of avenues to explore. The key things are to look at the diet and lifestyle changes, see this time as a wake-up call, think, okay, my body's changing, what can I do now to invest in my future health and to reduce my symptoms? Get the information, get as much support as possible from friends. I think it's really important just to talk about it, to know you're not alone, whether it's from your colleagues, from your friends, or whether it's from online support groups, and to think about various treatments.
Thank you, Dr. Currie. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're very welcome.